up, guys? It's Madeline. I just wanted to put a quick note in here before you start watching. I typically do a LeadSimple 101 training with all of my clients within the first couple of weeks of onboarding. I usually record it, and I thought, hey, why not just give it to you as a resource? So here it is. I have it kind of edited, but it's a Zoom webinar. If you have any questions, pop it in the comments. Let me know if there's a piece of this that you'd like me to dive into even further, make some more content on. Feel free to share it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Today, we're going to be doing kind of a LeadSimple crash course. I'm going to treat it as if it's everybody's first day in the system, and maybe we can all get some nuggets out of it. We're going to go over some high-level stuff and really best practices. This is going to be stuff that I've seen tried and true, either from my own team or training other teams. You are welcome to adjust these things because some of this will come down to policy. Like I'll show you, there's a way to communicate with your team. You might decide that email is a better way for your company. So that's going to be some internal conversations. My job is just to make sure that you have the knowledge to be able to make that decision. At the very top under dashboard. So just to be super simple, on the left-hand side, that is going to be how you navigate through LeadSimple. The very top board is going to be the dashboard. Okay, I'm going to start at the top with these service quality indicators. Processes completed on time. This is tracked based off of the due dates inside of a process. So if you've ever started a process, in the right-hand corner, there's a due date at the top, and it like turns red if you're past it. This is how we track how many processes are completed within that time frame. My rule of thumb, if this number starts to get below 80%, we need to start adjusting some things. I almost always assume that it is a timing issue on the process building side and that it's not your guys' fault. If you see this number starting to dip, it's probably because we have not built the process in a way that gives you enough time to complete the work. So you guys can all take ownership in this and say, hey, you know, my lease renewal, we started 120 days out, but it's only giving me 90 days. We need to adjust the due date for that. And the second one is going to be task completion rate. This is not going to track the number of tasks that are completed on time. This is actually going to track the number of tasks that are completed versus skipped. I'll show you the difference, but basically this is another metric that's going to help show you if a project process is being built in a way that's helpful to you, because you guys are more likely to skip a task that's creating work and not actually helpful. So if we start getting a higher number, like probably for this one, I like to keep it above 95%. So if we start seeing below 95% of tasks completed, we need to start looking, okay, are there things in the processes that are muddying up the waters? Do we need to fix this? Are we creating too much work and like click path and stuff? So this is going to be how we track how quickly we're responding. I typically recommend waiting to turn on inbox until you've been in LeadSimple for at least 30 to 60 days, just to give everybody kind of a cool down time. You'll still be able to send automatic and manual emails. It's just not going to be where you manage that mail. And then the last one is occupancy rate. This is pulled straight from your management system. You're not going to ever impact this from LeadSimple, but you all know the work you do impacts this directly. So the faster we get a unit turned, the faster we get an applicant moved in, higher you're going to see that number. Able to see the number of processes that are currently working, the number of processes that are overdue, and the number of processes that are off track. To share with you the difference between off track and overdue, an off-track item means that the process is still in time, but a task is overdue. So you may have 90 days to complete the process, but a task was maybe supposed to be done yesterday, and so that's going to be off track. An overdue process would be that the process due date has passed and we're now outside of those parameters. So you'll want to understand that difference. And then over here, you'll be able to see task completion rates, and then the amount of processes completed on time. So task completion rate, this is going to help us dial into this one up at the top. So if we start seeing one process in particular that only has like an 80% completion rate,
we're going to want to hone in on that process and make sure that the tasks are actually helpful to the team and that we're not skipping them. Not because the team needs to click every button, but because there's probably things in that process that's not helping them. And so if you are a part of the team that is working on that specific process and you're in your work order process and there's like 10 things that you're like, this is not even applicable to me, let someone know because we can then bypass it and we can build it in a way that's actually helpful for you. Team performance, you're probably going to be able to see only your own account here, but this is just going to help kind of see workload management. Admin level people can see everybody's team, everybody's account. So this is just tasks due, amount of them are overdue, and then future. I really, unless, you guys are having internal conversations, if people have overdue tasks, again, it's probably a timing issue because let's say you're in a lease renewal and you have an immediate task to see if the tenant has signed their lease, but you sent it 5 minutes ago. We would want that to instead be timed to like 2 days from now. So that's going to be something where if it's overdue, there's a good chance that we need to adjust the timing. Okay, and then down here, this will become applicable when you start using the inbox, but this is just going to be where you can see how quickly you're responding, as well as who is sending the most emails. So it splits it up actually between vendors, tenants, and owners. That's going to be really helpful as you're like, hey, I have this one person on my team who's overloaded. Their primary contact is owners. Let's see the data, and we can try and troubleshoot it that way. And then you can, of course, see workload down here as well of team members and how many emails they have. Okay, now for the fun part. So your task list, some people are gonna really like how this looks, other people are gonna really hate it. And that's just preference. I'm going to give you two different ways for you to work inside of LeadSimple. There's not a best practice. It probably does need to be one of these two, but you can kind of pick between what works for you and your brain and your team. So the first option would be working from your to-do list. So your task list is compiled. You can see your most overdue task first. You can also see highest priority first, which if you don't have that set up, it's probably not going to be as helpful. So this is going to it's going to force rank from oldest to newest. So you'll be able to see all of these overdue tasks. So let's say Leslie's working through these and we know that we don't need to do them. What she would need to do is skip all the way down here to upcoming so that she can see what's coming soon. There would also be a section in between these two if she had something due today that would literally say due today. So the goal is for you to be able to log on every day and go, okay, this is what's on my plate for today. This is what's on my plate for the rest of this week. This is what's a little bit overdue. If you are working from this page, I'm going to give you a couple of quick notes. This task list is meant to be pretty basic. It's not meant to give you the full picture. It's meant to be kind of a snapshot view. What you're going to want to do to gather more information, there's two things. One, you can open it up and it's going to show you the task. So this is an email. It's going to show you the person or process it's attached to. So this is like a hyperlink. It's going to show you the type of task. So again, email. It's going to show you who the task is assigned to, and you'll always see only your own tasks. So that's going to be kind of a no-brainer. And then it's going to show you the due date. It's going to show you whether this is manual or automatically going to send. It's also, and this is a newer feature to LeadSimple, and they haven't quite figured out the kinks, but you can update the priority of it. So if you have a task, let's say you see one come through and you're like, oh, I need to get this done like today, you can click the priority one, and then now it's going to sort. If you go here, it's going to sort it highest to lowest instead of just overdue. Make sense? I'm gonna show you in a second the other kind, but before I leave this task page, I also want to show you personally, I really like paper. I have a notebook here. What I want to try and get you to do though is move your tasks, things that are attached to a person, property, or process. Okay. I want you to try and move those to LeadSimple because you can now create standalone tasks and create individual items that need to be done. Okay. and they don't have to be tied to anything, but I would recommend that you that. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple different variations of this. So let's say I need to call an owner because a tenant has to move out or something like that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to say I want to do that by the end of the day tomorrow. I'm going to assign it to myself and I'm going to mark it as medium priority. I can also add attachments if I want to.
Okay.
Add the task, and it's going to be at the very top here. Okay. The other thing that you can do, and this is going to be something that you guys will want to talk about, is let's say Leslie is handing off a new client to Robert. If she needs to get with Robert and tell him something, you could also create a task for each other. So let's say if one of you is in a more managerial space, you could have a task for someone on your team and assign it to somebody else. So let's say I want to assign this to Karen. I'm going to give that to her. It should refresh the page. And now I'm going to go to Karen's account and you'll see the task down here. Okay, so if you do that, you're gonna want to communicate about it. You don't want to just drop stuff in people's lap, but that's gonna be one tool that you're gonna be able to use to communicate. Now, if you notice, this task is not, it doesn't have that hyperlink. See, it doesn't have like a move out task, it doesn't have an owner, nothing like that. It's gonna be a standalone task. An alternative would be actually adding a task to a process or person already in hand. So if I go back to Leslie's account, let's say we're working on Henry. So I'm gonna do that again. So I was in Henry, I was in this task and I click this hyperlink and it's gonna open up whatever you're working on. Okay. So this is gonna give you way more information than just sitting on your task list. If you have a couple of tasks and you know exactly what they are and you just click them off, that's great. Most of the time, though, you're probably going to want to see this view so that you can see exactly who you're working with, the audit log, see what's already happened, notes, all of that. That's probably going to be where you're going to want to land. So in this scenario, I'm going to tell you about the standalone task and then I'm going to backtrack and tell you about the rest of this page. So let's say Leslie has a task for Robert specifically about Henry. What she's going to do is create a task right here. So there's the same button, add task. You're going to type it in. You can add instructions. You can add bullet points. You can add attachments. We're going to assign it to Robert. I'm going to add task. And so now it's going to stay inside here. So you'll always be able to see it in here until he checks it off. But then if I go to Robert's page, you can see that it has that hyperlink. Okay, so what I would say, if you have something that is attached to a lead or a process that's in progress, I would recommend finding that lead or process and putting the task there. If it's more like one-off, like just a random thing like ordering cookies or something like that, I would put the task in the regular task list. Make sense?
Mhm. Mhm.
The other thing I want to show you, how many of you guys have a task that like every month you have to call the same person or, every other week you have to, I don't know, check an account or something like that. Is
I
that,
have one recurring task. I created one. It's invoicing every 28th. I
yes,
already have it here in LeadSimple.
yeah, that's perfect. Let me try and find it. So this one.
That, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what she can do here, is we could say, you said create invoices or something like that.
Yes.
So we can actually type in the title. We're gonna want to be pretty specific with it so that we don't forget what it's about. You can add as much instructions as you want. And then
Mhm.
you can say, you can put your due date and then they can be recurring. So every month on the 28th or every week or every year. So let's say you have one task that you need to do on the first of every year, you can annualize it, okay? You can do it every Monday. So there's gonna be lots of different options here. You can also do that with That was weird. Where'd it go?
Hmm.
Did you see that disappear?
I did.
There we go. You can do that with emails too. So you can create an email template that maybe you need to send to somebody. You can do all of that as a recurring task. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move back from tasks, and I'm gonna open up a process. So I'm gonna go into this task here. This is your guys' lease renewal process. And I see lots of things I already like in here. So this process is your lease renewal. I'm just gonna run kind of a quick overview of what we're even looking at on this page, and then I'll give you some more operational things. So of course you have the title at the top. You have your tasks. Across here, these are called stages. So every stage has different things going on in them. I can show you the back end of this so you can actually like see it, but just so you know, you can look at the tasks here. You can also, if you're a little bit more of a visual person, if you hit this view process button, it turns into a flow chart. And so you can see where you are and also what's coming up. So this is specific to the process for Little Jim. And so we can say, okay, we're in these tasks right now. We can see what's already been done and we can see what's coming up soon. So then if we went to send lease, we would be able to see all the tasks coming up. Okay. We can also see the conditional logic of why it went to one place or the other. So once we get to upcoming, let's say they decided to non-renew. It's a really tiny text, but it basically tells you why that stage would be happening if they chose to non-renew and the conditional field that it takes to go there. It's all drag and drop. You're not going to mess anything up. So you can move this around however you need to, and you're not going to break anything. We're back on the process page. This is your activity log. It's going to go newest to oldest. So at the very bottom, it's going to show an audit log of everything that she has done, everything that she's completed, as well as the emails that she has sent. So you can see emails going out, you can see emails coming in. You can also see when the person has opened the email. If there was a link for them to click on the email, you would be able to see that they clicked on the link. She's also utilizing what's called a note. I love notes. Using notes, there's kind of two different ways to use them. There's audit logs for yourself. So she's making notes, saying, why they're moving, the next steps, that sort of thing. That's wonderful. The more you can do that, the better. The other thing you can do is if I create a note using this button here, and I use the @ symbol, just like if I was on Instagram or anything else, I would tag somebody and I can leave them a note. So let's camp out here for a second. In my time as a property manager, I remember getting so irritated because I would have to make a decision, or I would have to ask my manager a question, and I would have to sit there for a minute and go, okay, so-and-so lives at this property, this is the owner, this is everything that's ever happened during this lease renewal process. We talked about this, we think we want to make this decision, but we're not really sure they owe this much money in rent, because you have to have context in order to make the right decision, right? There's things that you have to know in order for your team to give the right answer. If I was in Slack, or if I was using a group chat, or if I was going to their office, I would have to write all that down, or I would have to tell it to somebody, and it completely prolongs the conversation. It also makes opportunities for user error. Let's say maybe I forgot something and maybe I got the number wrong, or I couldn't remember what happened. Opportunities for error, right? What I can do instead using LeadSimple, let's say we're in this and I need Leslie's opinion on this lease renewal. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask, Leslie is then going to get pinged in this bell icon at the top right or top left. It's going to be a little red button, just like an iPhone notification. She'll be able to click on that notification and come straight here. And all of a sudden, she has all of the context she needs in order to answer your question. So she's able to look and go, okay, this is the tenant, this is the owner, this is the property, this is all of the work that they've already done to work on the lease renewal. So all of a sudden, all of your questions can exist inside of LeadSimple. There's some potential downsides to this. LeadSimple does not have actual push notifications. So if you're in LeadSimple, you will see the little bell icon light up. If you have the notification email turned on, you'll get an email every time somebody tags you. You're not going to be able to actually get a push notification from your phone or from your laptop. So for my ladies in the field, we're going to want to be really cognizant of time sensitive things if we're trying to talk to them, because they may not see it until the end of the day. That would be something where we want to like pick up the phone or text them. So I had like our maintenance director, he was in LeadSimple, but if I needed his attention, I'm not tagging him, I'm calling him.
Right.
If I have somebody who's at their desk and I know that they're always going to be logged in, our recommendation is that you clear out your notifications by the end of every day. So by the end of every day, your bell notifications should be 0. And when you're responding to somebody, you don't want to go in and edit the note. You want to make a brand new one. So it looks like a text thread. So let's say I'm Leslie now, and I would then tag the person I was responding to. I would want it to look like this. Okay, so like if this was me and then this was Leslie responding.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'll delete this so that it doesn't get confusing for you. Okay, so that's my favorite feature of LeadSimple, honestly. The amount of time that it has saved us, and it helps, let's say somebody moves to a new role, or let's say somebody transitions off the team, those notes stay with the process. So a year from now, you can go back and find the decision tree of why somebody did what they did, and you're going to be able to explain a whole lot more than if you were just looking at like lease that somebody signed. You're like, why did they sign this lease, right? Hopefully that helps you guys.
Hey again, just wanted to pop in and let you know the next couple of minutes I had to basically redact some information just to make sure that nobody's personal stuff was getting put out. I highly encourage you to follow along on your own LeadSimple account for this next portion. You'll be able to hear my voice and understand what I'm saying. You just won't be able to really see what I'm clicking on. Again, if you have questions, if you want to maybe run this through one-on-one, let me know, pop it in the comments, shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to help.
If we move over to the right side, this panel here, it scrolls, there's a lot going on. This is probably the piece that's a little bit overwhelming for people, and so I want to just make sure you understand what you're looking at. So at the very top of the page, there is the due date for the process. Process due dates can be either created manually or automatically. So when you hit start process, if the process due date is auto-filled, it's because in the settings of the process, we have it set a certain way. We can adjust that. So if you're like, this is only giving me 30 days, I need at least 45, we can fix that. You can also edit it right then and there. If it's manual, I recommend always having process due dates being automatic, but if it is manual, that's okay. Just try and do your best to figure out how long you need to complete the work, because that's going to impact that very first metric we saw of processes completed on time. Assignees. In every process, there's going to be the process owner. There's going to be other roles based on how we have it built. That is going to be assigned to specific people every time. The process owner, okay, we'll do a little bit of business theory for a second. There's this thing called a RACI chart, RACI. I would think about your processes this way. So R is who is responsible for the outcome. A is who's accountable for the outcome. C is who needs to be consulted about the outcome. And I is who is informed of the outcome, okay? So in a lease renewal process, we have one person who is responsible for doing the work. Their manager is going to be accountable for making sure that that work is done properly. The maintenance department needs to be consulted to make sure that the lease renewal needs to happen. And then we could even put an owner in here and say that the owner is informed, or maybe the admin or finance department is informed. So it's like, hey, we did this lease renewal. It has happened, just so you know. That would be informed, okay? We can also swap this and say a bigger business conversation is happening, Robert would be responsible, someone else might be accountable. You can have somebody in the same name, so Robert might be responsible and accountable. The C-suite level on your company would be consulted, and then the rest of the employees would be informed. So that's just a little tool for you guys to think through processes and business ideas as a whole. But in the sake of this, process owners are always going to be this person who is responsible for the outcome and managing 80 to 90% of the work. Everybody else on there, like I have a company who literally builds it out. Like everything here is RACI, and so they fill that out for each person. I don't necessarily recommend that. It works for them, but just something else I think about. Okay, that's for those. The property, this is going to be automatically synced to your Appfolio account. It should pull automatically. You very rarely should have to fill this out. If you were to find a process without a property, just so that you have this, we're going to act like this didn't sync. It's going to look like this, and you're going to type in the title of the property. And you're going to always want to pick the one that has this blue tag in it. So this is the official integrated Appfolio property. If you see there's a different one down here, I know it's not exactly the same, but we don't want to pick the one that doesn't have the tag, because that means that it was manually entered and it's not synced to Appfolio. Okay, so always pick the one with the blue tag, and then it syncs just like that. Done. Okay. In the property, there's lots of different items here. I'm not going to go over all of it right now. Just know that these are custom fields. Some of it is automatically synced from Appfolio. Some of it is manually created from LeadSimple. I'm actually getting ready to do a YouTube video on this, and I will send it to you guys as soon as I make that. But just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over that right now. At any point in time, if you see this blue Appfolio icon, you can click on it, and if you're logged into your Appfolio account, it will take you not just to the login page of Appfolio, but will take you to that property account. So if you need more details in Appfolio, you can click on it and it will go directly to the property. Same thing for the owner or for the tenant. So all these little blue A's, it's going to take you straight to Appfolio. Okay. That's going to be helpful if you have, if you guys have been really utilizing notes in Appfolio and you need to see something, or if there's a custom field in there that's not in LeadSimple, it's going to be helpful for that. Okay. The same thing kind of goes for owners and tenants. You can have multiple owners and multiple tenants in a process. So just to kind of show you the delineation, where it says owner here, you can have multiple contacts. Okay, so think about it like a group chat. So I can have one group chat with multiple people in it. I would add multiple owners. Like I had a client that has one LLC, one entity that had 3 partners. So we would want to add all 3 owners to the process so they would all get the communication. That should happen automatically through your Appfolio sync, but you'll want to just kind of be cognizant of that. Tenants, same thing. You'll have head of household, and then you'll have the rest of the tenants. Typically this pulls in like everybody over 18. It's not going to pull in like kids or that kind of thing. One thing you'll want to note, and LeadSimple gets this right sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, is figuring out who the primary contact is. So let's say Kimberly is the one that you always want to talk to and you don't really talk to the rest of the people, which I recommend. If you have a household with multiple adults in it, pick one to talk to. But I would recommend utilizing this star and turning off the star for the other people, because that means that the email is going to default and go to just Kimberly. If you want it to go to everybody, then you can turn that back on just by clicking the star again. Okay. At any point in time, you can copy the entire contact if needed. I've not used that often. There might be times where you can expand this and it shows you more information. And then there's notes down here. This is a new feature, like a week old feature in LeadSimple, where you can have property notes. This does not sync to Appfolio. I'm still trying to find a use case for it. You guys are welcome to play around in it. It's kind of floaty, like there's not really like a repository of where these notes go. So I wouldn't put anything like super important in there yet. Okay, and then the very last thing I want to show you is under this details page. Oops. These are going to be your process custom fields. So as you run through a process, it's going to ask you a series of questions. It's going to look like this little blue box. You're going to fill it out based off of whatever pops up. As soon as you fill it out, the details of that information is going to go in here. Okay. So if I want to look back and go, okay, what was the owner's renewal choice? I can see that it was renewing. How many lengths, what's the length of the lease? 12 months. And you can go all the way down here and it's gonna stay there forever. So you can go in, same as if seeing notes. If you ever go into a process from a couple months back and you need to see the decisions that were made, you can just go here and get a quick view of it, okay? You can at any point in time upload attachments. Again, there's not a place where this goes, so it stays with the process, which is fine. I wouldn't necessarily put like important information in there. I would maybe put like pictures of their pets if you're running an application or that kind of thing. But if you're really wanting to hold on to it, I would keep it in Appfolio for now. The one other thing that you can do, and you shouldn't have to use this super often, but I want to make sure you understand it, is you can create a process from a process. So if you are in a lease renewal and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I already moved out and you don't even need to finish the lease renewal process, you would skip all these stages, you would manually move it to, oh, we need to add a step, but we would manually move it to where they moved out. And then you would create a sub process for the move out. It's going to auto populate all of the work you've already done. It also, if you have a field that was filled out, a process field that, and this is kind of a crash course in and of its own. There's different kinds of custom fields, and if you had a field that you needed to see in the move out process and the lease renewal process, it would carry from one place to the other. So maybe we need to say like, did the owner renew the lease? And the answer was no, and we want to see that in the move out process. If you fill it out in the lease renewal and create a sub process, it will move that data over to the move out. What you need to know though is that if you do not create a sub process and you just go in and make its own thing, it's not going to move that data over. Okay, so if you really want to hold on to things, you're going to want to create a sub process. There's not many use cases for that, but I can think of a couple.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this video so far. I just wanted to interrupt one more time and let you know I'm getting ready to enter into more of a Q&A part of this session. Feel free to listen in. You'll see some of my clients and their questions. I'm skipping around a little bit so that we're not releasing private information about their company. But there's some great questions about dashboards and view creations and that sort of thing. So definitely stick around, but understand that it might be specific to their team.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. I know that's a lot. It will make more sense the more we use it. Any specific questions I can help with while we're here? Anything that you're like, I'm trying to work on this and I don't know what I'm doing.
So in general, we have been working off of a spreadsheet where we can see all of the properties that have actions. And so how are we going to be able to move away from that spreadsheet and see what's happening with what actions we need to see here in LeadSimple and make sure we're not missing something?
Kind of like a big overview, right?
Yeah.
Because that was my question too.
It's a great question. So I meant to go back over this. So the two different ways that you can work, like I mentioned, there's the task list and there's like the process view. This would be how you do that. This personally makes sense to me, but I think a hybrid of the two is going to be the best option. We can create custom dash views in this page here. So I'm in this specific page for lease renewals. We can also go on an even bigger span and look at all processes. So you can dive in between each process. So let's just focus on lease renewals. We can filter stages. So I'm going to trash these. These are just the views. It's like a spreadsheet. And I'm going to give us a blank slate. Okay, so we have 41 lease renewal processes going, both active and completed. We can filter by stage or status. I always recommend going by stage, so we can see exactly which ones are in the upcoming stage, and we can title it upcoming. We can see exactly which ones are in the non-renewal stage. We can see exactly which ones, I mean, I can go on. We can also filter it based off of the property or the status of something. We can also, for a process field, we can create a sheet. So like let's say, what makes sense? Do we recommend a renewal? So for the properties that we do recommend a renewal for, we would be able to see that answer. And then, so like this is the view. Over here is where we can customize the data that we see. So usually I don't want to see created at, I do want to see due at. I don't typically pay attention to assigning because for a lot of you guys, it's going to be the same assignee every time. I'm going to get rid of that for a second. And then what we can see, I'm going to add the owner's renewal choice. And I'm going to add, let's see, do we recommend a renewal? Just to give you an example. So then the data is here. Okay, so if we filter it out to every stage that is in upcoming or send lease, so we would call this like working. You would see every process with the process name here, the property here, the stage here, the time the process is due. If we have the owner's renewal choice, if it's empty, it's because we haven't gotten that far in the process. And then if we recommend a renewal. So that's just one example of how we can filter this to make a view. So it's going to be a little bit different than a spreadsheet because you're not going to see exactly linearly. Like you're not going to be able to see all the way down the line of what's coming up, but this will give you a different perspective on the processes for sure. So I also want to show you, so if I go to the all processes page, I can show you, let's see. This may not make sense because you may not have a process this way. But I can show you how to create a view. So like I can make it to where you can see units that have been vacated in the last week. Like we can make it really granular. Okay, so you can see like a turn board. You can also, if you go here, and I know we didn't really get a chance to go over the difference between the leads and the processes, can give you a view for your tenants. And it looks like they kind of have this built out. So you can see tenants that are moving in. You can see tenants that have a balance due. So you can see your delinquencies, you can sort them. And so then you can see this contract in, that's their lease end date. And so there's lots of different views that we can create that show all of this. Well, I absolutely am here to be your resource for the next few weeks. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. You guys are welcome to reach out anytime. Okay, well, thanks for letting me go over a little bit, guys. I'm excited for you. This is the hard part. It will get easier. If you need anything, reach out to Robert, reach out to myself, and we'll get you the support you need, okay?